So, having a little bit of technical difficulty, partly even just trying to get Ken on here for us. So, give us a second here as we try to make sure that everything is up and running, and that would be why I can't use that song. That makes more sense now. As partly what I'm also doing is trying to get us back from a challenge that has happened in my house, and so hopefully we'll figure out a way through that as well. Hey! Oh, so interesting. Ken, are you coming through a phone,
Yeah.
it looks like?
I'm using my phone for the meantime as I restart, just to see how it goes. Hello.
Hello. Can see you on the phone. Of course, now you're sideways and sideways on my side. You may need to restart it with the... There we go. There's that rotation that looks so much prettier. Much better.
Hello. Oh, you can see my pretty lights. Look at that.
You see your whole setup as we have it around. So that's very nice. So as we're doing this, the other thing I'm having to do is go through and... Where am I? I'm having to try to actually get all of the show things, the music and stuff going, because part of what my challenge is, as go figure, Show X always has something going on. In this case, it is recovering from nature. But I was looking for...
yes, I heard about your mishap.
Yeah, I'm looking for where my regular background music would be when it's not on my server, which is currently unavailable. And unfortunately, I'm not sure where else I may have it. Let me try...
I have it on my Dropbox somewhere, but I'd have to like download my Dropbox and then send it to you, and they're very large files.
I found it, and so let's do... Oh, it doesn't let me do that. Okay. Do that.
Yeah, I'm going to try again on your computer. Call you back in 2.
Okay. So the other thing that we're dealing with is that Ken's computer didn't want to connect, and so we're kind of playing with all of this at once to make everything work. Oh, you butt. Okay, so I may have to do this all ad hoc. So, but at least we're on, and at least you can hear me, and we'll go forward from here. So, as Ken gets ready to call back in, since his computer and Linux and his Skype weren't allowing him to connect to us, let's see if I can at least get our intro on officially, and see if we can go from there. So, no, don't play there. I will put it here. No, it won't let me do that. Add a file instead of change a file? It's one of these things where, let's see, I just need to do open. All right, I can put that in. Good, good. Now, if I get the background music in, then we will sound almost like a normal show again. Here comes Ken. All right, let's try this. Ken's is still freaking out, but let's do mics off.
This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wade in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Okay.
You are now entering dysfunctional deviation.
That's not what I wanted. Haha. I was like, why didn't that work? Because that was an intro. Alright, so I put the wrong thing there because I was looking for a song and not a drop-in. I was in the wrong directory. So I wanted this directory and this song. There we go. Let's try that. Hey, background music. Yay! Alright. So we've got that going and we're on again. Alright, so we are still just lacking a Ken, as for whatever reason his computer under Linux is not wanting to connect to my computer with my Skype, and so I'm not sure what's going on with that. But we'll see if we can bring him back on. To start the discussion, though, and I'll actually use that in my notes as well, thanks to Copy, or Grayfield. And that is that this show is going to be called When Lightning Strikes. Main reason is because on, let's see, this would have been Wednesday night, I will say. I was chilling at my computer, getting ready to go to bed. It was about 10 o'clock or so. Let's see. Letting Ken know if he needs to, he can just call in on the phone, but we'll figure out one way or another. But, so I was hanging out, and I don't even know what I was playing or doing. I might have actually played a game for a moment, but had finished up and decided it was about time to go to bed. So I was actually wrapping up for the evening. Was going to go to bed at a decent hour. It was a little wet and a little stormy outside here in Colorado. I didn't think that'd be a big deal. No, it's whatever. And then all of the sudden, out of nowhere, lightning struck. And when I say lightning struck, I'm sitting in my basement, and there was no discernible difference between a flash and a bang. All of a sudden, there was just a very loud crack, and just BAM! Right at the house. When it happened, it was... So the flash happened, crack, shook the house. So from my perspective, it was just this immediate bang all around. And the lights flashed in the house. My computer stayed on. I'm trying to think what else I noticed when I was sitting here. All of my uninterrupted power supplies, and I have some commercial grade ones that I got as hand-me-downs from a company. All of them started screaming at me, essentially, just going off saying that they weren't receiving power. What else was noticeable down here? That was most of it. Afterwards, things were quieter in a sense. I want to say I heard the server rack in the back, the constant fan that's going there, come back to me like it was off, and then it came back. And let's see, what else from there? But everything slowly came back. It was just kind of a shock. Also, I felt, and I was kind of surprised because I've been shocked through my keyboard and mouse before. I felt like electricity along my arms. Oh, show, really? Now you're going to be terrible? Let's just stop that. And again, the audio is going to be a butt. So it's funny. Hey, Ken's going to try to come back right now, though, so we'll see. So I'm assuming, Ken, this means you're still you're on your cell phone again. Maybe. I see a pretty picture of your face, but now it's got quiet again. So I don't know if the call's actually going through or not. Ah, so close. Such a tease. Yeah. Isn't this fun? Alrighty then. So everyone, yep, as Coffee's saying, just another day in the office. As I say, isn't this fun? And I can't call Ken to save my life, so.
Oh,
Hey!
and I hear music.
It's almost like you're back.
Almost. Is it me that's being the problem here? I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. It could have been a combination of us. Did the thing it does where everything crashed. So I brought it back, and now I think we're back, and I don't know. But I see you on a different camera. It looks like this is more normal, so I'm assuming we might have made it.
You think this is normal? That's good. This isn't my phone.
It's not your phone, or it is?
It is definitely my phone.
Okay. You sounded a little hollow, but the video's beautiful.
Brilliant. That's good. Well, the only thing that's going to be a problem is the battery life, which is 74%. At the break, I can go and grab my my charger though, so we'll be okay then.
Okay, good. Well, if you need to go do it, but that's appreciate you making that effort to get us back here and going, because yay, all the things, and I will blame Mother Nature, absolutely. I was starting to tell the show and everyone essentially the challenges of this week, all starting with on Wednesday night getting hit by lightning. I was telling a story where it just got on, a big flash happened, and from that flash, essentially I saw everything in my house kind of scream at me, go off, and things like that. And it just kind of came back for the most part. I was just finishing the story when my computer decided to freak itself out this time, and I felt energy going up my arms, and essentially it was done. It was like not going up, but I felt the hairs on my arms like stand up on edge. And I could feel like my shoulders almost like a little ache in them after this massive bang that just hit all simultaneously. It's a light flashing outside my windows. After everything came on, it was kind of like, oh, crud. I went upstairs, checked on my cousin, and he came down looking like, dude, what the heck? Because he was upstairs. And me being in the basement, him being upstairs, his experience of the smack of lightning was significantly more severe and kind of in his face. So that
Jesus. That's
well,
terrifying. Was he okay?
Yeah, he's fine. He didn't feel anything. It just like was a big shock. And for him, I know because I had been cleaning up the house some since I had family coming in, that he was playing 7 Days to Die because they had just done a massive update on that. And when I was just vacuuming, he was telling me I need to stop because it was scaring him, hearing noises in the background. And so I can only imagine that a little bit of poop might have come out when he had lightning and thunder smash all at the same time.
I can imagine.
Now, it was still raining out, and afterwards I kind of went outside to look around because that was like so sudden that I wanted to look to see maybe was anything, did it actually hit my house and was there any damage? And I could not tell. And so I was kind of looking around, and so I went outside. It was still raining a bit, and whenever lightning flashed at that point, admittedly, I was hunkered down a bit, like, don't hit here again, kind of thing. But I went out, did a quick survey.
That's the thing. People all say that lightning doesn't hit twice. It most definitely does in the same spot. Dude, so do not be very careful with that. Well,
and so I kind of ran out and just looked to make sure there were no flames, right? That I didn't need to call the fire department or something right away, or any discernible damage. I didn't see anything. But came back to in the house, and that was finally when I started making some assessments as to, okay, now that all that happened, am I okay? Is there anything else going on?
Sure.
And so came back again. My computer was on. I was like, okay, that's good. I started looking around, and I decided to go through. And I kind of turned off all the power in my downstairs, all the extra switch power coming to the basement. But when I was checking through stuff, I noticed that my router was not on. That like there were two lights visible, but it wasn't actually. None of the other lights were blinking. So I power cycled. I turned it off and back on, and no lights came on. At which point, because I was looking around, I was like, well, the computer's on, but there's no internet. And I looked, and I also checked around. I saw, so as I started going out from there, because everything in my house is on either an uninterrupted power supply or a surge protector, anything of any value. There may be one or two things that aren't. And so I was like, all right, what's next? And I kind of started going around. And I saw that the router was down. It looked like the modem might have been okay. The gateway, but then I also looked in like the switch that feeds the rest of my house, the pre-wire, it wasn't powering on. And so I did a few things where I moved all the equipment and tried different outlets that I knew were working. None of those were powering up. for those who are listening in and maybe try to catch the stream during the week, the live stream, the server that runs the 24/7 stream and keeps the archives and all that stuff locally was not powering on, is not powering on. What else?
Dude, that sucks. I'm so sorry to hear that.
As I've gone through the house, my stereo that feeds the basement, I try to turn it on and I get this F6.1 error on it and a big buzz through the speakers. My upstairs receiver that plugs into my television, my surround sound, it turns on, but whenever it tries to put a signal out through the speakers, it makes a bad noise and then shuts off. So I'm pretty sure that receiver has died. After going through, like the one switch that died, I was able to reroute it through one of these other switches I'd gotten from business. And its function, it seems like all right. But my cousin's computer, because it has a direct line up to the second story, we tried switching network cables and stuff like that between it. It's not able to connect to the internet. And so I haven't checked yet, but at least that wire I think must have fried. One of the wires coming out of one of my switches definitely fried one of the network cables. So I switched it out and the next one was working. So I honestly believe that this shock must have come in through my network. That it must not have come in through the normal power system, but on external because it's a cable modem. Well, it's a cable modem coming in. And I also have a feeling that maybe because I've just recently got my solar installed on the house, that maybe it hit something in the solar, came through, down, jumped across because all the wiring kind of runs next to each other down in the main circuit, and then over and into the network and through my system. Because things that are just normally just connected to the power mostly survived. But there were things connected to the network that absolutely fried. And so at some point, regardless of how it came in, it jumped to network. Because it fried network cables and it fried some network devices. And so the worst part about that is my router is like the nicest ASUS router you can buy. At least it was. And so it's dead. And that kind of hurts because that's like a $350 router. The switch that died.
Do you have any claims on that or anything? Do you have home insurance actually? That might be able to cover it.
I do have home insurance. I have a deductible on it that is high enough that I'll still should be able to get enough back. As I've been going through the house and finding everything that got damaged, I'm going to make a claim because it absolutely should cover all this. And the challenge is actually going to be explaining to the insurance company that it didn't come through my power because the first question they ask is, was there any of your devices connected to surge protectors? Because of course surge protectors have their own warranty. And so of course if an insurance company can have you go through their warranties first, they will. Problem is this did not go through any of the surge protectors. Various types. This came through the network. And so that's the issue. Although, anyhow, so we'll see how this goes. But I will be making a claim and trying to work through this. But yeah, so that is why the 24/7 server is down, why it is not working, as well as that is why I'm kind of on a backup mode of getting things back together and running. And somewhat in a triage. I need to make some network cables that I can go front and back on and kind of check the rest of my house and all of my network connections to see what is or isn't dead. I'm really hoping none of the wires under my basement for Game Fest are broken because Game Fest is in another 2 or 3 weeks. That would suck. And thankfully I had
that really would suck.
Yes, and I had my old router. And I was able to go in and get hold of my old router, unbox it, plug it back in, and it's working. It's not the best of routers, and it was getting saturated last time we had a Game Fest, so which is why we upgraded it. So maybe it'll survive and work, but we'll see. In the meantime, I am looking to replace the router, potentially the entire computer for the server, my stereo system upstairs, all these other pieces I'm looking to replace now. And so we'll see. I'm estimating right now at least about $2,000 worth of damage, let alone if I have to do any networking stuff or pull any wires through walls or electrician work or something. I don't know yet. So this will be interesting, but fun.
I'd recommend calling your insurance company soon.
I already did. I've already started. I already have. It's already filed, and now they need more information. So they've been bugging me actually a lot lately, saying hey. You want this claim? What do we need to do with this? And I just haven't had the time to finish talking to them. So Yes, I have
it's good
started
that
the
that's
process.
going forward though, because it's really good to inform them just in case there's some claim hidden away in the text that you signed that says, "Oh, if you don't tell us in 10 days," that kind of thing.
I was very much aware of that possibility and wanted to make sure I was covered. And so, yes, I did not wait to at least document that this had happened. And it's kind of surreal, essentially, in how this all happened, because I was like, what? I have never been struck by lightning in a house, not that I'm aware of. And so, it's just one of those things, again, when it's electronics and gear, that, oof, the pain. So, yeah, that sucks. Let's see. So that's the first thing and main thing that happened to me, and kind of started out even though I didn't do the drop in, my official, oh, that's not going to work either. Because the server's down and all the drop-ins and everything are going through it, I have to reroute. Thankfully, I made backups on another local drive of all the stuff for the show, and so it's just a matter of reconnecting and getting those things running. And so that's why. So I'm actually going to have to manually map over the rest of the music for the break and stuff like that as we go. But that's okay. So anyhow, that's been the main part of my dysfunctional deviation. What else did I have on there? Okay, so that's kind of sets the mood for the week and the day and what I've been doing and recovering from damages and such. The other thing then, I got lots of little stuff, but on a side note, kind of lighter, yesterday, let's see, how did I start this? Yesterday, day before slightly. So I have family in town. My brother-in-law is, let's see. Oh, weird. I just got a thing from you via Skype, I think. Unless that's... Nope. I think that was
it Facebook? I messaged you on Facebook a while ago saying, "Hey, what's going on? I can't contact you."
Huh. Maybe? Things are just starting to get back together? Could be. So, that might be the one. I just heard something pop through like, hello. So, oh yeah, that must have been what just came through. Yeah, where it's like, yep, I crashed. That was me. Anyhow.
Actually, maybe my phone. I just realized that I've been getting Facebook messages from friends, and it's probably buzzing when that happens. So I'm going to put it on Do Not Disturb mode so that you don't hear that.
But yeah. So what else happened then? So I had family come in because my family as a whole has been getting ready for a bit of a family reunion that happened yesterday. Unfortunately, I did not attend. I've got way too much stuff going on. But also kind of coming around with it, my sister and brother-in-law came to town on Tuesday real quick as they were on their way down to further south in Colorado for my brother-in-law to do a race. He likes to run and hates himself. And so he was in town to do an ultra marathon. And this one being 100 miles at altitude in the Rocky Mountains. He made the attempt, started running Friday morning, and we got the last report yesterday basically stating that he unfortunately did not complete the entire 100 miles before they cut the time. They did a cutoff after 31 and a half hours. And at that point, he had traveled 85 miles.
Oh, poor guy. That was a fairly good attempt. Look at that. That's impressive.
It is impressive, because the last time he tried one of these big ones, the furthest he had gotten was 77 miles. And that was not at altitude. And so this time he was running around 8,000 feet up above sea level and trying to make the distance.
That's a huge difference.
That's what I was saying. He gave himself a couple days to acclimate, but I was like, dude, what are you thinking?
You gotta be careful with that kind of thing. That can do damage.
It's ridiculous. And my sister went up there to pace him. She herself did not run, but did go up there and was like, hey, all right, cool. So she was up there. I can't wait to see them. They're on their way back here. In fact, all my family is. On Thursday, just after the lightning had happened, the next day, my older brother and his family flew into town as they stayed a day with me and then headed out to Nebraska to meet up with the rest of the family for our family reunion. I, on the other hand, took that evening, and as I hear noises behind me and hope nothing explodes, and hung out here and tried to get some work done on some costuming, as I'm running out of time very quickly before I have to get to Dragon Con at the beginning of September with my Thomas Jefferson costume. So I started working on that a little bit, and then yesterday morning I went to a festival here in town called the Dragon Boat Festival. Actually the biggest Asian Pacific cultural dragon boat festival in the United States, where a good 100,000+ people come visit. But it's an event where they do a bunch of ceremony stuff and have these boats on the lake, over on Sloan Lake, and they do races between these large wooden boats. They're based on Pacific Islander culture, but they look, if you will, almost like Viking longboats, in that they're fairly narrow, long wood, and they have a bunch of people on oars that paddle them. And so they had races going through. One of the types of races is, as they go through, it's just a straight race from one end of the lake to the other, usually 3 boats at a time. The other one, and a shorter race they have, is more of a sprint where they go about half the distance of the lake, and at the end, they have to have someone on the boat reach out, and they usually climb on the head of the boat, the dragon head on the boat, and have to pluck a flag that is sitting in the water and pop it out to have shown that they got there when they did. And those are fun to watch. So we got to see those, got to go around in kind of a bunch of shops and food and things like that. Got to hang out with some of my local friends, including Hydroxycut and his wife, and a couple other friends from work and such, as we all were geeking out together. Got together, did that, spent a good part of the afternoon. Afterwards, got together, had some lunch, and then headed home because I thankfully had some help the next night from my friend Hyde. From Hyde My Air Cosplay, part of my bigger Tales as Asteria group, helping me kind of get further and more motivated on my costuming, because I'm trying to work on doing it in the right way, building a mock-up first out of cheap fabric that I can make all fit, and then once that transfers out and I make sure it looks how I'm after, transfer that over to the fabric I'm trying to use for the costume, do it that way. And so she was able to keep me motivated and basically keep me on task, even though I was exhausted after being out all day, and after trying to introduce my nephew each morning a little too early to anime. I was trying to get him to watch, and he actually really enjoyed Initial D, which is the car racing drifting anime that I like, older one, and because he loves anime as well, and so he got into it and just had a ball. And he had actually asked me the next day, like, hey, would you want to get up early again and watch some more of that Initial D? That was fun. I was like, okay. So I only had gotten like 5 hours of sleep before doing this whole day. So by the time I got home, after all the stuff out in the sun, water, that kind of stuff, I was exhausted. And even with energy drinks sitting here, I was barely able to keep up, and tried to take a couple naps. That didn't work, and just suffered through. But eventually finished cutting out all of the pattern pieces I need for this coat. To start working on the mock-up. And then before I actually started trying to sew it together, reading through the patterning and stuff, I realized I was far too tired and called it an evening, sent Hyde away, and just crashed because that was too much. As well as being interdispersed amongst other things I did throughout the weekend that were geeky. But on that level of non-geek, that's a lot of what I was doing. So anyhow, that's my fun
that's you all over,
catch-up.
sir. You all stretch yourself to the absolute limits for these things.
Yay! Anyhow, so Ken, what have you been doing that's not been geeky, as I then try to get the rest of our music and stuff back in here?
Sure, take your time. I say take your time. I don't know how much time I can give you, considering I've had the dullest week. In the past few months, as my work's been getting more and more, not necessarily hectic, but the weight of its importance has been weighing on me more and more as the time limit for my PhD is going down. And so I'm putting more time into my work. So it's the same with when Ken Feature says to me, like, if she hasn't seen me much recently, she says, "What have you been up to tonight?" kind of thing, and I say, "Work." She's like, "Well, what did you do tonight? What did you do last night?" "Work." "What did you do?" And and then the worst thing is when people like my parents are like, or everybody else is just like, "So what have you been up to recently?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, work." And they're like, "Oh, well, what exactly?" I'm like,
that hurts. It's
tough.
Right? I'd love to say I've been doing all kinds of great and fun things.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing work. That's the end of it. That's all of it. Because the thing is, it's my understanding of it's barely there. and it's my life's work. You know, like I can't explain it. Like it's just not that. It's not as simple enough to be able to just be explained in some casual conversation. I'm doing research. I'm doing sciencey stuff. I do a lot of algorithms. I do a lot of logical puzzles in very niche specific things. You know, it's always pain when somebody says to me, "What have you been up to?" I'm just like, "Oh, just work. Just accept it, please." I know it's out of caring. I know it's a nice thing, but it's just like it's not that I'm mad at them. I'm just mad at the situation. I suppose that I can't actually, discuss it with anybody really.
That hurts. Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah, so that what I've been up to the past week is mainly work. But I also did one kind of cool thing, which is we've booked flights to Geneva. Myself
nice.
And teachers
To go see your family?
Go visit the in-laws, which will be good.
Nice.
Part of that. That's the end of September, so I'll be away for the whole month of August, and then come back for a few weeks, then off to Geneva. That's the plan in a way. That's good. But that's my dysfunctional deviations, I'm afraid. That's it.
That is okay.
Technically enough.
No, that's fine, because that is enough time for me to say that we can switch things over and actually start talking about some things geek. And so, because, yes, you gave me just enough time for us to get into Geek Cred. Although I don't have, like I said, the drop-ins going, that's okay. So, anyhow, then, Ken, what have you been doing that's been a little more geek-related?
Well, sir, I've done a couple of things. I have been playing some RimWorld. By some, I mean I played it for about 20 minutes before the show. And that's it, because I actually uninstalled it until then because I wanted to concentrate on work. So I
you are being responsible.
Enjoying still.
Yep, being responsible. That's a good thing.
Yeah. So RimWorld's a lot of fun. I've been enjoying a lot of the mods. In fact, I can actually probably go look at them and talk through some of the mods I've got up. Let's see. How do I sort by what I've subscribed to? Oops, no, not my files. I don't care what I've put up there because I haven't put anything there. Okay, so I have 44 mods installed, which is quite a lot actually, considering it's not
pretty good.
The biggest mod. A lot of them are rather dull things, like a lot of them make the game a little easier in ways that make sense, and there's kind of like an exchange. I don't like mods that are just like start on God mode.
Yeah, that just cheat and you break it. That's what I've always said about Oblivion or Skyrim, is that mods that enhance the experience, make things more realistic or more challenging, or just fix things that are annoying, not things that just say, oh, so I just want to walk through this and look at things and they explode. Yeah,
there's no fun in that. What is fun is I like the fact that I can go and say, here's a few examples. Minor boring things like tilled soil. Like the guy needs to till the soil for the soil to be tilled, but then I can actually plant stuff in soil that I normally wouldn't be able to, which means that there's a few more places to plant, but it takes some effort, so it's worth it. Cooks can refuel. So generally speaking, if a cook is working on an oven, they won't refuel it because that's the hauler's job. The haulers do that. But there's a mod that just says if you're cooking and your oven's out of fuel, just do it yourself. And that's a minor thing, but it's really useful. A training console, which I've never gotten yet, but your dudes start off with set skills, and it's very hard to get them to increase their skills at all, ever. And what this does, it doesn't necessarily make it easier, it just makes it more concise and accessible, I suppose. The idea is that you can, if you put enough materials, and it's a very expensive thing, in fact I've never managed to do it yet because it's so expensive, you can gather the materials and make your own little training console that you can train with. And it doesn't give you infinite perfect skills or anything. Over time you can slowly get your skills back, kind of thing, which is neat. And I like the idea. But it's really expensive, like I said, so I've never had to use it yet. So I've actually been able to build a benefit from that mod yet. Additional joy objects, because currently there's only horseshoes and what's the other one? There's something else. I'll tab over. A chess table, which you can't really do until a bit later because it requires quite a lot of wood and chairs. So pretty much you just have one joy item for your colony, and it's a bit crap. So I installed a mod that adds in card tables, billiard tables, dartboards, books, book racks, bookcases, reading tables, and so on, which is nice. Dead man's clothing is no longer forbidden. So generally speaking, by default, everything that whenever somebody dies, their clothes you can't you can strip them, and you can wear their clothes. If you do, you get this huge debuff to the character's needs. They're like, oh, I'm so sad, I'm in a dead person's clothes. But the truth is, if you're in like this devastated colony of people like starving and struggling to live, and half the people are naked because they've run out of clothes, and you're dying.
That you probably won't be as bad off if you're like, yeah, that person died, but they don't need it.
Yeah, you're not going to be that bothered. You're like, oh, I'm shivering to death, but I can't wear that guy I never met's clothes who's now dead and died of a natural illness. I can never wear his clothes again.
We can wash them.
Yeah, like they'd be happy or dead. It's like, why should it be the case that I prefer my characters to be dead than not dead? Miscellaneous robots. So if you pay, again, if you do a lot of research, and I mean a lot of research, takes a long time, and you put in lots of materials of steel and stuff that's hard to get, you can make robots, which will do some of the more boring stuff in the colony for you, like cleaning and hauling and stuff, which is cool. And if you research even more, they'll eventually do combat and stuff. But I've never even unlocked the basic research because it's quite far on. So it's a cool idea more than anything. I've got some scenarios. Like I've got one scenario that starts off with like Halo Trooper type guys. So it's like 3 of them start. They're very militarized, but they're not very good at actually building a colony. So you get the benefit of better guns and military training and shooting skills and stuff. And they can hunt really well, but they really suck at things like construction. So you tell them to go build a room. It takes them like 3 attempts, and it costs loads of materials wasted. Stuff like that. So I've got loads more I can go through, and it really is a fun game. I recommend trying it out. It's RimWorld. It is currently on Steam. If my computer would stop freaking out. Oh, cancel. Nope, I can't do it. It's freaking out too much. And that was my Amazon Echo freaking out because I said the C word. Let me see if I can do it this way. No, every time I highlight store, for some reason it freaks out. And alt tabs a lot or something. Oh, there we go. It's £23, which is approximately $30 or so. The description says it's a sci-fi colony sim driven by an intelligent AI storyteller, which is not quite true. It is definitely a sci-fi colony sim game, but the AI storyteller is more how you control random events. You can make it so they increase in statistical likelihood over time, or they're always random, or whatever. I wouldn't say it's really that advanced, or at least it's not obviously advanced. It's inspired by Dwarf Fortress and Firefly. Generates stories by simulating psychology, ecology, gunplay, melee combat, climate, biomes, diplomacy, interpersonal relationships, art, medicine, trade, and more. And technically it does, but some of those things are very the art is like very basic. It's like you can make your dude make of art, and then it makes the room make people a little bit happier. So like putting it in your description there, it kind of implies it's really good. It's not that good. It's all right. The game itself's great, but they just sell it in a kind of a weird way, I find.
Okay, gotcha.
So I do recommend it. Check out RimWorld's great. I've also been playing that Trimps game I was talking about last week, which is that silly little game where you... it's a clicker game, effectively, and it's been fun. I'm enjoying playing that as a passive thing to when I'm thinking of a problem and I just... My mind goes blank, I sit on that for 2 minutes, and then I go back to work, and it helps quite a lot, I find. It's good fun. Trimps.github.io. Try it out. It's free. And it's browser-based. The last thing I want to talk about is I'm now on Star Trek the last season of TNG.
Oh, nice!
So, I'm still on the first episode, so I'd say spoiler alert, but considering it's a couple decades old now...
Yeah, it's had enough time. If you haven't watched it, come on now.
Yeah, if you have... Well, that's the thing. You still give the warning, right? But I'm now at the point where Data has felt anger, and he killed a Borg, and he felt pleasure afterwards. And and Lore just got reintroduced as like, oh, I'm back again for the 7th time.
Yeah, exactly. Hi again, I'm Evil Data.
Hey, it's me, your old buddy. Yeah. Uncle Lore. And so they're dealing with that, and I'm looking forward to Data not being evil anymore because it makes me sad. But I'm really enjoying it, and it's such a good show. I keep seeing Star Trek references and Star Trek stuff everywhere ever since I started watching.
Well, yeah, once you actually pay attention enough that you've seen the episodes, so you now have seen the original part of the reference, it's so nice to be able to come back and say, oh, that's where that came from. I love that.
So it's actually called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. I googled it the other day, the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. And it means that it's a frequency illusion. It means that you see something,
gotcha.
something like a word, and then it's everywhere. You know, like
once you notice it, you now notice it like everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. It already was there. You just previously ignored it, which shows how much we ignore stuff, which is kind of sad. So yeah, Star Trek. I also saw what was it? I've been watching the stuff with Star Trek Discovery as well. That looks pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. A lot of people are saying a lot of bad things about it still, but I'm still kind of excited. Sorry.
No, it's one of those things where they have tried several times to do Star Trek stuff at different time frames in the universe, and it just keeps failing. Like the problem is, anytime they try to add or reboot or do something else with Star Trek, they run into this issue where Star Trek is now so known with so much of the technology and things that when you try to show some time frame that doesn't already have all of the technology and have already done all of the things, it seems like the people writing try to find a way to incorporate or add that into the storyline. You know, that's what happened with Enterprise, is that, you know, hey, this is the beginning, but we can't handle that there's no teleportation, that there's no, phasers aren't fully invented yet, and oh, by the way, we don't have a true war going on with anyone. And so it was lame. And they basically, instead of finding the right niche to play up through it, they quickly found reasons to introduce all the stuff that I don't know is in every Star Trek. And so instead of it being a thing about discovery and being its own level, it was just, nope, there you go. So yeah. So...
That is sad. I still look forward to trying all, but that is saddening to hear. But that's been my week in geek, though. Again, I know it's very poor.
No, that's good. That is good, and you have been experiencing things, so nice. As we go into, and then I get to transition into my week in geek. Let's see, as I was going to say, is that, what have I been doing? So, I have a couple things listed. The main thing was the cosplay, which I started talking about Thomas Jefferson and such. And again, shouts out to Hide My Error for keeping me on task, at least get going on this. I need more time and may need to reach out to the actual Hamilton group to help me further. If I can, I'd love to get this mock-up done this week, including hopefully the vest and pants, figure out how to make some of these period-specific pants for it. I am waiting on some items to come in the mail. Big one is like 100 buttons that I ordered. And the buttons will be, the costume itself has, we measured at least 43 buttons, and there may be some others. And so hopefully these ones will work. They look pretty accurate. I got my shoes in, which is nice, although I have to edit and add a disc to them to make them look like they have a big buckle on it. And I got the silk socks to wear with them. As a higher, like, nice, even, not cotton sock, so it has an even weave to it. Although I almost feel like I need to get a thicker pair because you can kind of see my leg hairs through it. And they're supposed to be more like stockings where it completely covers. Basically the old-fashioned colonial time frame. Think of your time frame when we left you. The high knickers, high stockings, and all that type stuff. So, anyhow, trying to get that accurate. Out. And so, working on that. Hopefully, we'll continue to make progress. The other big thing that I've been doing that's been geeky this week, let's see. I have called and hopefully have a ticket in so that I have a part should be in the mail shipping for my 3D printer. It had gone down because I ran into an error that many people have, and this is a warning to anybody that has a R2 from Robo. It's a great printer, and they're fixing a lot of the little things that the masses are now learning after their testing. This one being that the Pogo board and back, which basically allows for connections so you can easily remove and add the hotbed that you print on and remove it to then remove prints, is that you have to be careful and let it completely cool before taking off or putting it on. The reason being is to make it so it can always connect and not wear out as quick. The idea is they have these electrical connections on the back that have a slight spring to them, so that when you set it down, it springs against it to make sure the connections are solid. The challenge, though, is if you manipulate them all, and this is one of the things they warn against, and it wasn't there originally, the firmware updates they started adding in the warning, that if it's still warm when you do this, it's likely that the spring in the connection will weaken faster if you articulate it while it's still warm. And so if you pull the board off while the overall bed is still warm, it might be warm enough that the pogo spring may break or fatigue faster. And so make sure to let it cool completely before doing that. So that may have had some of it. Also, I mean, I didn't even realize that was an issue with these boards. So you just pull it off. Hey, put it back on. Magnets on. Great. Wasn't as probably delicate as I could have been with it, but I also don't feel like I abused it because this is an expensive-ass printer. But that part should be coming. I also mentioned, I don't know if they'll get it, that my main Z-axis screw has a warp to it, so I'm hoping they'll send me a new screw as well, but we'll see. I should at least be able to print once that's back. Because I have a few things, some costume things I want to do for people with my printer. The other thing I've been doing is I've actually gotten back into some old school gaming a little bit.
Neat. What are you doing? What exactly?
So through the magic of computers and all the technology that's existing there, as well as other means, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you, emulation. That I am going back and trying to revisit. And this is mostly because my nephews, as they were here, they brought their Nintendo Switch with them. And in doing so, we played a few games there. On the Switch, I got to check out Splatoon 2. I got to check out the fighting game ARMS. And I played a little bit of the Mario Kart game they have on the Switch. As well as I got to watch...
I heard a lot of Splatoon. It seems like that's quite a favorite of some people. It seems to be younger people's kind of thing, though, right?
Well, I think everybody, because Splatoon is essentially the closest thing to an FPS that they have on it. Instead of you actively shooting to kill people, I mean, the goal of the match is to paint as much of the level as possible of the horizontal surfaces, and essentially there's a percentage at the end of how much your team's paint compared to the enemy team's paint covers the match, and whoever has the most coverage wins. And
so
in doing
FPS, you don't shoot people.
You can, and if you take someone else out, basically it's just they respawn, and that is a period of time that they cannot be painting. And so it's not the focus of the game, but it does work. And so with that, they each have like different types of weapons and things like that. My nephews prefer the roller, which is like a huge paint roller that you put on the ground, just roll big swaths of paint. And it's interesting, there's a mechanic in Splatoon where you have a fixed amount of paint in you at a time. To recharge it, you have to turn into your squid mode, which allows you to go underneath the ink of your color and move more fast through it, so it's dual purpose. As you're under the ink, you actually recharge your ink flow, and it allows you to move very quickly. As you come out of the squid mode, you turn into your humanoid mode, because essentially all the kids are squid kids, so they're kind of a mix between squids and people. Thus that they have ink, as they make ink. But and then the different kind of weapons. I've only seen a few. There's rollers, there's pistols, there's a dual pistol wield that I saw my nephew using, sniper rifle, kind of more traditional shorter range splotch things. But they'll do everything from a line of paint to more AoE type coverage and things like that. And so they have their uses, as well as there's grenades. And as you go through, there's ultimate abilities that each character has. Some will let you target specific enemies and try to knock them out for a little bit. Others will apply large amounts of paint to an area. And so it's ways to kind of clutch, add more percentage to your team. So there's lots of ways that some of those play in. But Splatoon's very popular for that in, a 4v4 match or something like that you play? Something like that online. And basically all against real people. So that was fun. I will admit that I'm still not a convert and don't see the need, purpose, or otherwise of the Switch. I still struggle.
Yeah, I still don't.
Well, because I look at, yes, there are cool games. The only one that I'm kind of intrigued by the Switch after playing is Breath of the Wild, is the Zelda game, for what's out right now, because it looks amazing.
Yeah, it does look very impressive.
It looks
Even
like a neat, a neat open world adventure game. And admittedly, every Zelda game I've played, I thought was really well made. It was a ton of fun. When I played ARMS, it's interesting. The controls were weird to me, and I didn't feel the precision of doing a fighting game that way, but I could see where it worked. Watched my nephews play that a lot and kind of got understanding of it, and I could see how you can get more precise the more you play it. I'm not there, and I definitely did not feel that precision. Mario Kart was interesting, except that using the Switch controllers, they had it so they have 2 full sets of the little controllers, of the Joy-Con side controllers, so that allowed up to 4 people to play, because each of these tiny little side controllers can turn sideways into a mini gamepad, and mini is this thing like barely fits in my hand, and the thumbstick's halfway in the middle of it, and it's just awkward, but it works. As well as you can supposedly do tilt control, but I didn't try to mess with that. And so played a little bit. Whatever it was in Mario Kart, I'm not bad at Mario Kart normally, but holy cow, the best position I ever got the whole race was like 6th out of any of it. And I was so far behind my nephews, and I'm like, I got hit by stuff, and it felt like the AI was trying to focus me a lot, but I didn't feel like I was doing that poorly. Like, I figured out the level design for the most part pretty quick. I didn't know any shortcuts, so that might have been part of it. But holy cow, if my nephews weren't so far in front of me that I never got to interact with them in that race. In the past, like on the Wii...
They're very quick. Kids are very quick at learning the motor neural pathways that are involved in that, so they'll pick up quicker than we can now.
Well, but there's things where, like on the Wii, when I originally played my nephew on the Wii back in the day, that was his game, and he played it constantly. After about 3 rounds, I was winning, because it's a racing game. It's a Mario Kart. I understand Mario Kart. I couldn't get it this time. I don't know why. There's just something about it where it didn't quite click right, and I was still way behind every time I did. I don't know. It's so weird. Normally I'm able to hold my own at least. That one I was not. ARMS was equally kind of a little awkward to play. But anyhow, so playing a little bit of Zelda and kind of gives me a retro feel. Makes me curious to actually go back again. I started to do this once with Zelda. The only one I played to completion was the very first Zelda and the second one with Link. After that, I never had a Super Nintendo, I never had a GameCube, an N64, any of that, so I missed out on the whole lineage of what Zelda's done. I have a lot of friends who grew up loving everything about Zelda, and so I have fielded the call to try to actually experience it some myself. And so in doing so, I've been playing back through, and thankfully, like my cousin has a GameCube in the house, as well as there's ways you can do things on PC, which is wonderful, that I've been playing through Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time, and the N64 version. And I will not hesitate to say that I'm not trying to suffer through the game. I want to experience it, so I'm playing it with walkthroughs, so that I know the next place to go do, but you still have to skillfully do the things it tells you to do in the walkthrough. It just keeps me from having to hunt, peck, remember every clue and figure out where and what I need to do next. So I'm just trying to streamline it, especially because I think I have like 7 more Zelda games to play on major consoles to get through or something. I was trying to look through. I mean, the lineage of it's crazy, and so from Ocarina, I think I have to go to Majora's Mask next, and then after that, I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, I'm still trying to learn and figure all of that out, and so we'll see. But that's been entertaining. It's nice because through the magic of technology, I've been able to play it at a higher resolution than was original. It looks really good. Everything that's rendered looks amazing, whereas textures are still the original textures that always existed there. But that's been fun. And I've kind of played through and seen where there's some other ones out there that I'll be able to do this with, which leads me forward to I have seen, and I'm curious of, some people who have found ways to actually get Breath of the Wild to work outside of the normal Nintendo architecture. And so I am curious to see about that as well. And so I believe I have a path forward to experience all of the Zelda games that have been made outside, as I don't think I'm going to try to go through all the handheld. I mean, I do have 4 swords. Maybe it's 4 swords and whichever one's attached to that, Link to the Past, something like that, on my DS, and I got stuck in that, so I need to find a guide for it as well. So, but hopefully this means that sometime from now I'll be able to talk a little more authoritatively about what it is to have played these Zelda games. I'm very much looking forward to that. So that is most of what I've been doing. On that, what else was I going to say? Had I experienced some other... Like I say, I will tell people that emulation's a cool thing, and there's a lot of opportunities out there for it. Yeah.
I've seen recently there's been some news on it as well, actually. There's been was it archive.org has released a bunch of old MS-DOS emulated
There's
stuff.
at least one out there that has like almost everything DOS ever had for games. Let's see. MS-DOS... Let's see. There is archive.org. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the big one.
because I think they had a ton of stuff on there that you can actually play, that you can go through. Let's do that, and then...
Well, I believe archive.org literally just took other websites and just made copies of them, right? That's effectively what archive.org did, was so that if your website went down or doesn't exist anymore, you could probably still find it through their old, Wayback Machine, as they called it. So
yeah, essentially the Wayback.
All the old stuff. However, that doesn't mean in which way that they were hosting it, per se. They were just copying it, right?
They're just giving a location. Well, which is great because there are some games that have just I haven't seen remakes of that were so good. They were such classics. It's funny because I'm on DOSGamesArchive.com, and in that I already see some like Destruction Derby on there. I was looking just at racing games because I remember going through the entire like coming forward with racing games. See, Need for Speed, the original Need for Speed, 1995.
Jesus Christ. That's old school.
Yup. And there's one I always look for. It's what, Wacky Wheels? There it is. Wacky Wheels, 1994. DOS. It is honestly the predecessor to Mario Kart. For anyone who thinks Mario Kart was doing it new.
We do not recommend ever actually using these websites, for they are technically illegal and therefore you should not do it.
Well, some of the things are in that gray market area of things that are no longer supported, and you can't actually go buy them legally online anywhere. And so that's where you get into these
we still
interesting...
recommend it, though, is the main thing.
Yeah, stuff. I have my opinions on that. If companies are still going to sell versions that work on modern equipment, then buy them there, because you should be able to get a dozen packs for nothing.
People can do what they want, and I have no problem telling them that these websites exist. I have no problem educating people about these things. It's interesting in terms of computing knowledge. However, I wouldn't recommend you actually download it. But, here's the website, here's the link for it. It is easy to do, and you probably won't have any problems for doing so. But I don't recommend it regardless.
Gotcha. Well, and on a lot of sites, like the DOS Game Archive, it shows links to like some demos and things like that. One of the ones I saw in here is Falcon 3.0, which came out in 1991. God, that was like the pinnacle of modern flight simulators, and it was that way for years. I mean, I saw mods for Falcon 3.0 for a decade. That's how popular that thing was. Oh, I remember playing like LH. There's so much of my past I can just walk through this and be like, yep, played it. So many of these things. So anyway, but yeah,
I'm
nostalgia.
sad to say that I don't recognize most of what you just said.
Oh, Wing Commander, Wings of Glory, SU-27 Flanker, SU-25 I played a lot of. Oh, that was so good. And that was 1990 that came out. So others have done it well. Like LucasArts has done good because you can get now all of the old Star Wars games on like GOG on Good Old Gaming legally.
Really?
And yeah, and they support. You can buy it, and it works in modern stuff through like DOSBox or something. I think it has a link through DOSBox that it works. So there are some companies that are absolutely supporting it, just not everybody. So anyhow, find what you can. All right. So yeah, been doing some great archive gaming and stuff. But other than that, as it's time for us to take a break, I have also been, while costuming and due to Hyde's influence, been exploring a couple other podcasts or kind of old web shows that have happened in the past. One, and people, it's still going on, and it's one that I'd never really listened to and just heard about, which is Night Vale. Welcome to Night Vale. That's been around forever. I've heard about forever. I just started listening to it because Hyde was like, you must check this out. And so I've heard like the first 2 episodes of that so far while I was crafting. And the other one she introduced me to was Rabbits. And this is one of these ones that was made up as a podcast, but it's kind of like telling a story from kind of an alternate reality story or something where they're saying that this really happened and this podcast was just talking about it. But essentially, it's just a 10-episode story or so. But you can look it up, and that one's called Rabbits, and it might be Rabbits Podcast or something like that. I'm listening to it on Stitcher, I think, and it's kind of this crazy, just, again, alternate reality. Somebody disappeared or got whatever from playing this game that nobody knows about, kind of conspiracy theory type thing, but it's entertaining. So, yes. Let's see, what else? Oh, and in the IRC, Grayfield's telling me I'm missing so much from past things, all the things I haven't played, but it happens. All right, so with that, I'm going to put us in a break, and because of the nostalgia and things I've been playing, here you go.
btwproductions.com.
Oh, come on.
listening to Show X on BTWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. All right, so finishing up on my geek cred. Yeah, I was going to say those two. And the only other thing is I'd been introducing people to a little more Westworld, and I started watching to hopefully reduce my sister-in-law's angst. I started going back through and watching a little bit of Game of Thrones, since it's one of those that I don't watch, and I said I really had no desire to. And so I was given many a, oh my god, I can't believe you said that, looks. And so I am making the attempt to kind of go back through and watch some of Game of Thrones, and we'll see if it catches me again.
I get the same, sir. I know the feeling. It's we get a lot of hate for not having seen it. I've seen the first 4 seasons, but I just got bored of it, and people just don't seem to understand that.
And I never got past the first season. I think I got 4 or 5 episodes in, and kind of was done. And so, I'm going to make an attempt to go back through and watch some of that. So anyhow, now it is time for us to get into some Geekoscope and talk about news and more. So Ken, do you have any articles you would like to share this week?
I think I have one that I had saved. Let me see if I can find it. Also, shout out to the Archon List, which comes out next week, by the way, which I still need to do.
I've done one.
So
I have others I need to input, and I could use some old stuff, but I was trying to really hopefully get something new. I need to look at it again before I leave the house, because as I go to this afterwards, there's a little thing happening, and I may get photos there, so I'll look.
Cool. I hope so, because I need to do it myself as well, and the more people take part, the better. Okay, I've got a few articles that I shared on the Facebook, which I was just glancing through. Okay, so I've got 4 articles here.
Okay.
First one is Jeff Bezos, who's the head of Amazon, overtook Bill Gates, the world's richest man,
that's who that is.
Approximately 5 hours.
Oh, really? It's for like 5 hours? Ha!
Oh yeah, it was because Amazon's stock prices went up for a second. And so, yeah, that's why that happened. It was not a permanent thing. He's not still the richest man. It was only for like a few hours. I think Bill Gates is back to be number 1. But Bill Gates has actually been number 1 quite a few times with some oil jobs as well, I believe.
Well, because I've seen some Middle Eastern and some other people from around the world that had gotten up there.
Yeah.
And so it kind of bounces around. In fact, I didn't think Bill Gates was still up there. I thought he had dropped like number 3 or 4 and was kind of lingering there.
Well, he has given away over 49% of his net worth, so the fact that he's still even up there is fairly surprising, actually. Maybe
insane
it's
amounts
or something rather than what you currently have.
Yeah, insane amounts of wealth. That's just nutty. No, that's good because I'm glad you got that. I had seen some article about somebody passing, but I didn't realize who it was. And so that is interesting. And it's funny because I can see Amazon stock bouncing around a lot in the near future. They're opening up, 2 massive facilities here in Denver? One by the airport that is some like 100. I don't even know how big this thing is. I know they're going to like employ some 1,000 people up at this plant, this warehouse that they're putting here in Denver. That makes sense because we're a major shipping hub and always have been, being here at the edge of the Rockies. And so them putting it here just makes a ton of sense. It also means I think locally they're trying to get onto their plan where deliveries from Prime can get to your place in as little as 2 hours from when you order.
Wow.
Depending on which item it is that you order. And it's also, I've run into something recently with that where from them, I've had things delivered by not the normal mail companies, but from individuals. And so...
Yeah, we get that a lot here. That's the norm here.
Yeah, I was being told that is a newer thing that Amazon's implemented where basically people can kind of Uber your package. And so they can just grab a bunch of packages and be their own delivery guy. And so I had some kid drop something up at my house, but it was weird because it also arrived at my house in like the evening, where I would normally expect it in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, it's usually like 8 p.m. or so you get it, which is great actually.
It's just weird. It's just like I was so out of my norm where something rang, I go out, it's like, who's here this late? And some kid running off and I have a package. So that was kind of unique and interesting. But yeah, so I could see Amazon doing a lot of bouncing around here in the near term. All right. Let's see. What do I have for you guys? A couple about Blizzard. I have an article here that talks about a new character coming to Heroes of the Storm. This is one of the, was this the third highest RTS that's out there at the moment? Just above Smite and some of those. But this announcement says that the Mists of Pandarian villain, Garish Hellscream, is coming to Heroes of the Storm, and it's going to hit the public test realm around July 31st. So, greetings. Blizzard has revealed that Garish Hellscream, son of Gromish Hellscream, and former chieftain of the Warsong clan, will be the next hero added to Heroes of the Storm. The studio said on Twitter that he'll be playable at the China Joy conference next week, and aims to have him on the Heroes of the Storm public test realm by the week of July 31st. Unfortunately, that's all they've had to say about it so far. But it's basically saying that they are continuing to add more characters to Heroes of the Storm. So look forward to that. That's funny, and thank you, Tabaxian, for throwing that in there. That the other one he put in there in the caps, Doomfist, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the next Overwatch character that's coming out. That's currently hitting the test realms. Anyhow, but yeah, so Garish will be coming. The other Blizzard news that I wanted to bring up briefly is that Blizzard, there's two things. One, if you remember back in the day, and I don't have the article for this one, but I remember reading it earlier, is there was the big controversy about Blizzard going out and knocking down I forget the big free version that was out there for the vanilla. Yeah. And that afterwards, the Stars had come back as a different one, and had been running for a while now. Well, I just read an article, but I don't know where it is, that said that Blizzard has since come out and shut them down as well. And
I've got it right here, actually. It's World of Warcraft Legacy server Felmist shut down by Blizzard hours after going live.
Oh, it was hours after. Okay. So, looks like Blizzard is still trying to keep you from playing the original version of WoW. Gosh, if they would just have their own server, like a handful of them sitting there doing that, that would require no updates. Yeah,
everybody it would just plays RuneScape for that reason.
It would take no updates. It'd be the easiest, cheapest thing to maintain, and you could easily run off to that instance from
There would be updates, but they'd be minor,
just for compatibility.
Right?
Yeah, but it's just for compatibility at that point. It wouldn't be new content because you're stuck.
No.
Right, and so you're not developing anything. You're just keeping it tweaked. It'd be so easy.
They don't want people to realize that
how bad their new stuff is.
They don't want people to realize that they're dead. Yeah.
Anyhow,
really dead.
But gosh, Caverns of Time. Just saying, it'd be so easy. And Greyfield is saying that Elysium is still a thing, and that's the new Nostralius. If I can say that.
Well, right.
The other article I had, though, that is also talking about Blizzard and what they've done is that World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, and more are going to be dropping support for older Windows versions at the end of this year. Actually, they say it takes place in October. It says if you are still running Windows XP or Windows Vista, then here's unwelcome news. A handful of Blizzard games will no longer support these operating systems come October. The studio made an announcement after that World of Warcraft, StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, Hearthstone, and Heroes of Storm, so everything they have except Overwatch, will cease to function with those systems by the end of the year. Says that Microsoft, quote, ceased mainstream support for these versions of Windows in 2009 and 2012, respectively. But since a decent portion of our audience still using them at the time, we continue supporting them. However, there have been 3 major Windows releases since Vista, and at this point, the vast majority of our audience has upgraded to one of the newer versions.
They're not wrong.
Oh, no, they aren't. They are correct. And so it's just kind of a heads up that if you are still playing on an older OS, specifically XP or Vista, and you still play those games, be prepared for that support to go away. All right, Ken, back to you, sir.
Sure thing. Since you stole one of my articles, this one's very short. Sims 4 is coming to PS4 and Xbox One this November. I don't know... what are your thoughts on that? Because I know the Sims series is very popular, of course. However, I don't particularly care.
So, porting it to additional platforms is cheap and easy for the most part, so go for it. You may have people that don't have PC and haven't played it.
The scheme sucks on Sims on the consoles, though. I mean, come on.
I mean, that's the real work that goes into it. Compatibility shouldn't be that big an issue. It's, because graphically it's not that intense a game. So anything older should be able to start running it for the most part. It's just getting a control scheme that kind of makes sense. And so as long as they manage that, I think they're good. And it makes sense. Expand your base to as many consoles and controls as you can. I don't know why you wouldn't. It's why I'm always pissed off that things hit consoles exclusive and don't come to PC. All developers out there, hint, hint. But anyhow, with that,
hint, all developers.
Yes. Do you have another one, or do you like me to jump on?
I do have another one. This one is more of a tech than it is gaming, and it's I don't know how likely it is. I hope it comes through. The British government has announced that they are banning all petrol and diesel cars from 2040. Which is a great thing, right? I mean, ideally we should have technologies and everything in place, and the manufacturing in place for then. However, will it actually happen or not is really the big question. I mean, it's only 20-something years, which is a long time to get rid of entire industries of diesel and other primitive fuel technology.
To give the oil companies time to transition over to controlling the electricity market? Yes,
exactly. It's a little terrifying to see for those companies. It's a very harsh deadline, and I could see them instead just moving country, to be honest. I mean, why would they even bother trying to change expertise when you just change your user base?
Well, it goes back to their old curmudgeons, and they like making money hand over fist without having to work at it. This is a subject that my older brother and I were having a discussion about not long ago when he was here on Friday or such, that he truly believes that in the next 10 years, diesel cars and gasoline, petrol-powered cars will no longer be sold by most manufacturers. I
hope that's the case. I don't know how likely it is, but I hope so.
And for me, it's not even that I hope. I still think there's a tail to the technology with non-petrol-based vehicles that people aren't paying much attention to. You know, battery technology continues to improve, but it's still very toxic, and it still has a ton of negative that goes along with it. You know, new battery packs in cars today still cost $5,000 to $6,000, and you have to replace them after less than 10 years. And so, when you look at fully electric cars, the price still hasn't come down. Now, granted, we're talking basically another 20 years from now, and hopefully those technologies will improve. I continue to have concern because, at least here in Colorado, I'm in a different environment than my brother who's in California, much denser populated area. You yourself, who is in a much more dense populated area and have better forms of public transportation and things like that, where owning a vehicle is not a primary necessity. It is a absolute good convenience, but it is not something you rely on and have to have.
That's accurate.
Here in Colorado, that's a lot harder a way to look at it. We kind of have to have. For me to get to work, I would either have to ride a bike through the blizzards and stuff like that, but it's about 7 miles away. Public transport would take me probably 2 or 3 hours to get to and from work, and so it'd be better off basically just walking. And that's not a short distance to get to and from work kind of deal. And even then on base, it's another couple miles into where I work. And so it's just, let alone anywhere else I go. We are working on public transport here, but it's not at a level that everybody could comfortably use it. And so I keep struggling with this. I like electric technology. The car guy in me doesn't think we're there yet, and I don't see the technology on the horizon that's going to put us there quickly, because I still can go and fill up my tank and continue driving in 10 minutes or less at any gas station, and then travel for hundreds and hundreds of miles as needed. When I went to NakaCon, when I go back to Nebraska and stuff like that, and it's a 5-hour drive, I make a stop for about 30 minutes, get some food, snack, use those facilities, I've filled up gas, and I'm gone, and I keep going. And thus, I can make it in 5 hours or so out. If I make it all back to Lincoln, which is 500 miles, I can do it in 8 hours. With an electric vehicle today, I couldn't. That would take me, a day's travel, an entire day's travel. Because even if I had a quick recharge, 2 quick recharge locations along the way, most electric vehicles have a range of about 200 miles, where even on gas, I get closer to 300.
They're just simply not made for those kind of journeys. They're just simply not, that's not what they're designed for.
Exactly, and that's where I start going back and forth as to whether it's really going to take over. Yeah, day to day, I can see having both a petrol vehicle and an electric My challenge is the idea that petrol is going to go away. That it's not even going to be available.
Hybrids are going to be the main thing for the next little while, I think. Because
Which
you get the benefit of being able to do both, right?
And I am completely in favor of better hybrids. You know, I like my little EcoBoost engine in my car. I would love for it to have a hybrid addition to it that actually put my range up to closer to, 35, 40 miles an hour or a gallon. And I would love, because part of the other industry I see are these large shipping type things, all the lorries and stuff, the larger trucks that get around, which are really your primary diesel users. They need the torque, which electric motors have. But to do that over long distances, because they tend to have massive tanks and can drive at a single time, some cases in the range of 500 plus miles in a single stint to move goods across country. And that's a big deal in the U.S. We have a lot of open space. And I keep struggling through it, as well as I'm still not sold on current electric vehicles in different types of weather. Another challenge is like my brother, and why I think he has such a generally optimistic view of how quickly things like automated vehicles and electric vehicles will take place, is in California, they have one weather condition to deal with at all times of the year. Ever. They don't ever get snowy roads. They don't ever get, all these things. They get temperate temperature or it gets hot. And that's it, all the time. And so I keep wondering, because when I'm here and the blizzard hits, and yet I still have to get to work, there, you a lot of times have to take some risk and put a vehicle through what is probably the safest thing you can to get to work. And, continue to pay bills and do the jobs and stuff, especially in my industry. And so I just have yet to see them in a way that I haven't seen the big off-road truck that's all electric, that can do all the things, right? And even then, the people who go up in the mountains and go up in the hills and stuff, I need something I can trust to start up and take me somewhere hundreds of miles off the beaten path. I don't know. Maybe I'm not looking as far ahead as I should, because I love cars. I love driving. I think they're fun. And because currently electric cars are so dang expensive, I don't see it yet. And it could. 20 years is a long time.
I think it will eventually come. The problem is more the infrastructure than anything else, because right now we do not have, at least in the UK, we do not have the infrastructure available. In any single car park you go to, the spots that are available for charging, they are free, because the government and companies often do that as like a self-advertising.
It's incentive, essentially, yeah.
It's a virtue signaling thing, right? So look how forward-thinking and green we are. We will offer you the free refuel here, which is great. I don't have any problem with that. That's a good thing for companies to do. And it helps the environment, etc. Of course, it's a good thing. My real issue is going to be 10, 15 years down the line, 20 years down the line. Is it going to be the case that we suddenly have, instead of 2 spots and 500 normal spots, 2 which are electric and 500 which are just, spots by themselves? Are we going to have 500 spots that are all electric? Who's going to foot that bill? I bet it's going to be the consumer, not the...
It will be. Even Tesla, the number one company pushing electric here in the United States, has stated that the free charging was only for their initial cars, the Model S, the Model X, and the Roadster. That everything else coming out, you will pay. And so the Model 3, which is just this week being shipped to consumers, the very first orders here in the United States, which is their under $40,000 Tesla, that you are going to have to pay for. And so it'll be interesting to see what the costs are. My brother is telling me that there is technology he's seen that will allow for quick charging to happen everywhere. So like under 20 minutes to full charge kind of thing, or enough to 75%, which is good. But I still suffer that, because he's like, just you go get a coffee and you go sit down and do this. It's like most of the time when I go to the gas station, I'm there long enough to get full and then I leave. I'm not hanging out.
Yeah.
I hang out when I'm doing a road trip. But that's about it. And it's one of those, if I need to stretch it and get to work and then maybe pick up gas on the way home before I'll make it, I know I can do that. I still struggle.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I think, to be honest, I think the petrol pumps should actually have more force behind them, because they're too slow for me at the moment, right? If that was
faster!
5 seconds is too long for me.
Yes.
And I love these pay at the pump type things, because we all want it to be faster, right? We all need it to be faster. So yeah, it's it's a future technology that I hope will happen, but I don't see it happening without extreme effort from governments and companies in a coalition for it to happen, because it needs the infrastructure more than anything else. It needs the mindset change. It needs people to realize and accept that this is going to happen, not hopefully it does one day maybe. Because here in the UK, at least, I know there's a lot of government subsidies and the likes. Like, if you buy an electric car, they'll actually give you some money back.
Yeah, a lot of rebates and various things, but man, so who knows? We'll see. The tech in me should be fully behind this and want to see more. The car nut in me is a little worried, and even then, it's yes, electric cars should have lower maintenance costs, things like that. But a big part of me is also like, but I can't work on it myself. I don't know. I mean, I've saved so much cost by band-aiding together a $500 Miata and keeping it running, where people make a lot of fun of me and they're like, what? But it still works, and I've had it running, and it cost me $500, and I throw in a tank of gas for $20 and keep driving. It's just, I don't know. So we'll see. Anyhow,
hey,
all right.
well, if you didn't have to pay for fuel anymore, that's quite the incentive right now. That is tempting.
So again, I like that it's using less fuel. I do like that, and it's a neat concept. And like I said, I just got solar in the house. Eventually, I would jump into it where if I get a battery wall to keep me charged through the nights and get a place to quick charge an electric vehicle, by all means. I mean, I'm going to look at that Model 3. I am. I'm not in the market to buy one anytime soon, but I'll look at it. We'll see. All right, I will get off my high horse on electric vehicles for now because, again, it's still a state where I don't know. I'm curious because, as Tabaxian was saying in IRC, he says he loves his Prius, which I believe is still mostly just a hybrid and not an electric, and talked about some of the charging stations that they're adding up in his area in Oregon and Washington. For us, I mean, and you can check some maps where you can see where all of it is, but it's still main highways and not necessarily most convenient for people in normal cities and driving around. And it still is weird to me, and I need to double-check the tech as to why it's not a thing. Why isn't trickle charge off of solar on every electric car out there? Why isn't there a solar panel on the roof and the dash that at least slowly adds? Because even if I'm in a completely dead situation somewhere on the side of a road and it's remote, if I have enough charge that after 2 days it gives me enough to go another 15 miles, I see a benefit, right? Because then I could maybe get to whatever that next place is, or enough of electric charge to keep my heater and air conditioning running so that I can survive if it's cold or hot out, in my electric vehicle.
Yeah, totally. Or it'll stop us needing to jump starts, right? If we have a solar panel, just turn the car off for 15 minutes and then it'll be charged enough.
Something just to give you a little. I still don't know why that's not a thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just wrong. Anyhow, all right, let's get back to some other and gaming news, not just tech. So one of the ones I want to bring up, and this is just recent news, a real quick one, but in a sale just recently, there was a interesting, someone sold, a sealed copy of a 1985 Super Mario Brothers game. I don't know if you saw this one, but on eBay on Wednesday, an unopened copy of Super Mario Brothers for the original NES sold for $30,000 or $30,144. This Wednesday. The game was supposedly in mint condition, although the man who bought it is anonymous. Is the most anyone has ever paid for a game in the history of this one was on the DK Oldies store. And it talks further about how could anything that old sell. It's like, well, it was always a popular one for the system. The fact that it's unopened is really what makes it unique. Whoever bought it didn't stop at Super Mario. He also bought other games, including a sealed copy of Kid Icarus for $11,000. Now that, you all, is some nostalgia. And that's not something I would go, but what do you think about that, Ken?
I think it's I don't know.
It's just weird, right? I mean, because you can already play these games in so many different ways, in different formats. I don't know why you'd want to own the original or why it's such a big deal. But I guess, for those who have the money and just want to have the nostalgia themselves, cool, why not? Now, hopefully, and I see Oh, okay. For a second there, Ken, it looked like you weren't moving.
Yeah, but I'm lagging. You just said everything at once. Sorry, what were you saying? I heard you say.
I was
Ken,
filling the
and
gap.
I was like, yeah.
I was filling the gap, essentially. But no, just saying that it's kind of nuts. But I guess if you have the money to spend, why not? You can play it on an emulator. You can play it on actually legally on your Wii U, anything like that, through old stores. So I don't know why you'd want to buy a sealed original copy, but if to say you have it, cool.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. It's going to be the collector's edition side of things more than anything, right? It's going to be a case of, hey, I have it, and that's cool. Look at this, look at me. It's a reputation thing, and as well as, I suppose, it's the collector in all of us, right? We all want to have that thing where we can say, look, I have the original sealed copy from decades ago. That's pretty cool. And if you're a fan of the series, that can mean a lot to somebody. I do like the idea.
Yeah, it's just, hey, I did that, I have it, great. But mainly it's because I don't really collect. I don't pay extra money for something old usually. It's just I buy what it is at the time, and if I keep it, I keep it. I rarely sell something I own, so that's my level of collecting. Oh well. But that's pretty cool. All right, so I guess I had that article twice. Let me knock away that one. Other things to note. One, as I talked a little bit earlier about Dota 2 and Blizzard news, one other article that came out about it, this one from Engadget, said, hey, Dota 2 won't be so intimidating to newcomers. Yeah. And the subtext to it saying you'll have fewer people yelling at you to, quote, get good. All right, so it says, this article...
That's actually sounds like a good thing. Cause I remember when I joined Dota 2 after playing LoL for a while, and I got saved. My first game, that's exactly what it was like. It was like, hey, it's your first game, why don't you instantly know everything, you scrub?
Oh, I've often argued that Dota 2 is a way for your friends to just stomp you into the ground and make you feel bad about life versus actually trying to accommodate and bring anyone into a new game and into a community. That's always been my complaint about Dota 2. It is the elitist of elitist MOBAs, and they are happy to stay that way. They don't actually want to be successful. They want to just say, we're the best, screw everybody else. And so in doing so, they just curb stomp any newbie that comes in. So what they've said is that for many rookies in Dota 2 and other multiplayer online battle arena games, the biggest obstacle isn't the game itself. Sometimes it's the community. There are certainly helpful players, but MOBAs are notoriously jaded players who are hostile to anyone who isn't already a grizzled veteran. Valve wants to fix that. It's delivering a Dota 2 update that matches newcomers with players with a reliably high behavior score, reducing the chances that someone who will berate you while you're still learning the ropes. There's no guarantee they'll be forgiving, but it's better than risking a stream of profanity just because you haven't spent 200 hours mastering your hero. Also on that note, your choice of heroes is now dictated by your experience. For your first 25 matches, you'll be limited to 20 heroes that are, quote, very successful in teaching you the concepts of the game. You shouldn't risk losing your first rounds just because you picked an idiosyncratic character that only seasoned players would understand. While these tweaks may not sound like much, they could be critical to maintaining Dota 2's momentum. Although it's still a huge title, there are only so many people willing to endure a gauntlet of "get good" cries just to unlock the game's potential.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of
that's probably, I doubt they have much in the way of growth because of that reason. It is very unwelcoming to new players. So any measures they can make that don't harm the experience of the original players, the experienced players, nor the beginner players is a good move in my opinion. I don't see a problem with this.
Oh, yeah, and this is one of the challenges I think all these games have. You know, was it in LoL, which I argue is still the biggest MOBA, they keep trying to do it by essentially how well they rank you as a player, the ELO type, whatever they're at today, which is when you play ranked play, you tend to rank up with people near your skill, even in the unranked. It doesn't always work, and you still run into odd things, but it happens. Yeah, League is bad because you can get into all kinds of characters, and thus you never know what's good, and they do a rotation through all of their characters, which can be a challenge. HOTS, I keep arguing, is, you know, baby's first... Oh, wait, is this a MOBA, or is it something else? I don't know. But it is nice to see them doing something for Dota 2 to try to make it less of a face smash, you know, bad time to get into. I will still say that Dota 2, or Dota 1... When I first played Dota, when it was originally just a mod for Warcraft 3. I hated that game. It was a Game Fest staple that all of our people would be like, let's play Dota. And I'd just be like, ugh. Because nobody would spend the time to teach it. It was always a, let's just play. And oh, look, you got smashed again. Sorry. It's like, yep, this is why this game sucks.
I love Warcraft 3, man. And I wasn't a big fan of Dota, but I love Warcraft 3 so much that I was okay with it. It was such a good game.
Well, I would still play it, but I would still play it, but I was just like, this game hurts to... I can't get good at it because I can't even play the game. When it was just the mod, Defense of the Ancients. And so I just... Oh, it was so painful. But no, so it's good to see that they're just trying to address it. We'll see how successful they are. All right, sir, back to you.
Sure thing. So I have a few here. A couple more from IGN as well as some of PC Gamer, because IGN is failing me this week. Okay, so the first from IGN. It says a complete guide to Star Wars Battlefront 2's pre-order bonuses. I didn't actually want to read this because I don't actually care about pre-orders whatsoever. I more wanted to say, are you interested in Battlefront 2? Because I quite enjoyed number 1, and I didn't nearly play it long enough before my PC died. Which is a shame. So I was going to say, for me, the most part, Battlefront 2 I think looks really good. Battlefront 1 looked really good. I thought it was a gorgeous looking game. I was disappointed that the content seemed very light for the cost they kept trying to throw it at people. And thus, I don't think they ever gave themselves a good opportunity to really catch on and for a lot of people to pick it up. And so that's mostly why I think Battlefront 1 didn't really do as well as it could have. Gorgeous game. Definitely the feel of Star Wars. Heroes were a little awkward, but otherwise worked fine. And I agree with everything you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, I enjoyed the game. It never quite felt like there was enough there for a $60 title. If it had been a $20 title, I probably could have had everyone down here in Game Fest playing it together at the same time. And it still goes into that same argument I keep telling people where it's a should. I don't know. It is what is the right value for any game, and not all games deserve to be $60 AAA titles. And that was one where, yes, a AAA studio trying to make a AAA game, but light on content. And so with Battlefront 2, my biggest hope is they fix that, because it still looks gorgeous. I mean, Battlefront 1 still looks amazing. Can you please give me enough content to feel like I'm buying a real game? Or reduce the cost. And I could do that. You know, I'm still, admittedly, maybe I'm just cheap. I'm on the fence with, Player Underground's Battleground or whatever, Player Unknown's Battleground? That game? Because even it's in alpha still or whatever, it's a pre-beta, and it's $30, and I have tons of friends who are playing it and having a great time with it. And so I'm like, well, $30 seems fine, but there's one map, it's the same experience over and over, minus it's different because it's online, just like MOBAs and such. And it's not even out yet. I don't know. It just feels like I'd buy it for $20, not for $30.
Has the audio died? I only hear you.
Yeah, it was doing the da stuff, and so I just stopped it.
Good to know. Okay. I was really enjoying it. The problem, more than anything, was my skill. I wasn't very good at it. But I gotta say, it's one of those few online games that I actually kind of enjoy playing by myself, even though it's multiplayer. Normally, I feel the need, like, I stop playing because I get bored without having friends on it. But I thought the content was suited well enough on its own. I actually enjoy playing it regardless, which was unusual for me.
On Battlefront? Or
Yeah, Battlefront, yeah.
Well, it's interesting, too, because they had a couple of single-player stuff on it. The multiplayer looked good, and it was interesting how they did the content where, kind of like Titanfall, where you had a bunch of AI along with the real people, thus making the battlefields bigger feeling or more dense, which is nice. I just want more of it, right? And so give me a big game, and I'll be behind. I'm definitely watching it, because I think it looks gorgeous. And so I am keeping up. Another game that's kind of, just as a follow-on quick note, is that Titanfall 2 just recently got an update, or is about to. Which one is it? New or about to? Titanfall 2 is getting a cooperative horde mode, which should be coming out now. Essentially, Operation Frontier Shield is DLC, and it is free. Everything on Titanfall 2 has been free for DLC, so thank you for that. It's getting its first co-op mode as part of the Operation Frontier Shield update, which is free, and as are all of them. Let's see. It says the new mode is called Frontier Defense, and it pits up to 4 cooperative players against 5 waves of, quote, increasingly difficult enemies. Slaying enemies nets you cash, which can be spent between waves on various tools, including batteries, arc traps, and sentries. Meanwhile, playing Frontier Defense will let you earn Aegis ranks, a new Titan progression system which can unlock new upgrades, though these will only apply to Frontier Defense for the time being. So basically, just as a quick throw out that while I haven't played enough Titanfall 2 recently, I do own it, and I kind of want to come back and play more. Definitely want to throw it at people to say, nice, I love a developer who's going to keep giving me more free content and not spend...
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Right, and not have to charge me a crap ton of money for essentially what, DLCs, which should be mostly free. So thank you for that.
Hey,
All right.
I'm okay with the old style DLCs that are like, hey, have an entire new game that's attached to it. Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne, for example, right? Like,
Absolutely.
New game
Give me a
that's
whole
worth
nother
money.
story.
They both won awards. Yeah, all for that. I'll happily pay through the nose for a really good game extended. Yes, please. But when it comes to a case of buy your horse armor here, no thanks.
Yeah, Skyrim, why? Why for, what was it, $10 or $15 for armor?
It wasn't Skyrim, it was it Skyrim? It might be Skyrim.
It did,
They
it had a
the exact
horsey
same thing
pack.
with, oh, that's pathetic. They did the same, especially when the mods are free. They did the exact same thing with their new The Elder Scrolls Online. You can actually buy something similar online. Same type of thing. They made it as a joke, like it was like a reference sort of thing, like, oh, horse armor. But it was still a case of you need to spend like a lot of money on it.
That's so dumb. So dumb. Why? Oh, that hurts me. If they just figured out. All right. Other things I need to bring up because it's current. Even though I do not currently have a phone that will manage it because mine died, and I'm still on the 4S, I want to make sure people were aware that Pokemon Go is not dead. And also, is it not dead? They have done updates. I think we talked about a little bit where they now have raids, where they have massive Pokemon come out at gyms that people can all get together and beat on together, but as well as legendaries. And the first legendaries, which have been active, are Lugia and Articuno. And it says, despite a plague of issues at their initial live event, they are now active. Niantic has been tracking individual teams' contribution to the overall, quote, mystery challenge that's been running during their big live event they did. And Mystic won the whole event, which is terrible because, come on, we all know Valor is best. That is who we are. Anyhow.
Wait, I'm Valor. No, I'm
You're
Valor.
Valor?
Sorry, you're right.
Come on. VGW is Valor. We are Valor. Anyhow. But now there are massive raids. Now, I mention this mostly because I've heard a lot of stories of things around here where there have been raids going on and people keep noticing or mentioning it to others like, hey, this raid's happening, where you at? And so it's kind of cool because I've heard from a few people anecdotally that it feels like almost the original launch of Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
And how they're really excited to have people back in and playing and seeing big groups of people meeting up in parks and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
I've heard similar things. Yeah.
All they need now is to add Team Rocket or Skull in there to like mess over gyms randomly and to allow trading and as well as personal battles. And this game would be almost complete. It'd be so good. So keep working on that, Niantic. I enjoy Pokemon Go. I wish I had a phone capable of playing it. And it sucks. I've been looking, and I really wish Apple would release the iPhone 8 already because I'm tired of waiting. I want a new phone, and I don't want a 7. Anyhow.
Why are you going for an iPhone?
Because that's all I've owned, and I like them.
But you have an Android.
No, I've never had an Android. All of my cell phones, have been Apple-based, and I've liked them all.
Well, now's the perfect time to try it. You've got an opportunity to try something different.
Yeah. I want the Apple device. I enjoy it.
What would you say to somebody who said they've never tried Linux and they've got a spare machine free? You'd say, well, we'll go out and try it out, right?
I'd say Linux is terrible. Are you running a server? Why would you do that to yourself? That's what I would say, because I've tried it and it's terrible. And I've yet to have someone show me their Android device in a way that's made me want to use one. I've had a ton of people that have the brand new like S8s and stuff like that. I'm like, well, that's nice. And I actually go to mess with it. I'm just like, ugh. No, thank you.
No, truth is, iPhones and Androids can do effectively the same thing in day-to-day stuff. The only thing is the iPhone is more expensive than Android, so you may as well go for the Android.
And the Apple device tends to run smoother in day-to-day operations over long term compared to the Androids.
I disagree.
They don't get bogged up with 100 versions of it running where you have to run like an app killer. Anything like that. It's true. I said, my Apple device is one great.
$300 extra for a possibility. Go ahead.
Ha! They are still good. Anyhow, The other thing I wanted to bring up for PC gamers, and this is another one that's not quite the Battlefront discussion, but one that's a question of, are you going to play? Are you interested? Is that Destiny 2's PC beta, when and how to play. So this is coming from Screen Rant. It says, Bungie has announced how and when fans can partake in the scheduled massive Destiny 2 beta event. With work on the original Destiny game finally done, the video game producing company is now all hands on deck in terms of developing its sequel, which will be released in less than 2 months. It has been 3 years since fans were introduced to the game's first iteration, and those who were immediately hooked on the property are already looking forward to a new installment despite regular updates of the original. The beta for consoles on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One wrapped up earlier this last week, leaving PC gamers on the lookout as to when they will have their opportunity to sample Destiny 2. Thanks to this announcement, everyone else who missed the earlier testing session will now have the chance to see a slice of what the online multiplayer first-person shooter sequel will have to offer. The news comes from Bungie's official website, revealing that the beta access for users who pre-ordered the game will kick things off on August 28th. This will be followed by open access for everyone else the following day on August 29th. The event is expected to last until the 31st, but may see last-minute extensions similar to prior betas. So with that, the other thing to note is the minimum and max and recommended specs, and I was actually pretty happy. These aren't too bad, which makes sense because of this being a basically port from console gaming. On the minimum side, they said an Intel Core i3 or a 3250 chip from AMD. Also, an NVIDIA GTX 660 with 2 gigs of RAM or an AMD Radeon 7850 with 2 gigs and 6 gigs of system memory. So, not terrible. Still faster than anything you're running, Ken, right? But still,
that's for sure.
But not terrible. Recommended is a Core i5 or a Ryzen R6 1600 or an NVIDIA GTX 970 or AMD R9 390. And so those are, higher end cars, and as it said, recommended, but not undoable, and those are definitely not the top of the line. And so it's nice to know that you can still play it and should be all right, even if, with just slightly modern tech. This is something I'm actually interested in. I know a lot of people who play Destiny 1 and seem to love it, where I'm sitting here thinking, why would I buy a console just for that? So I'm looking forward to this hitting PC and to see how much better it can be. All right, Ken, back to you, sir. Do you have another article you'd like to share? And actually, are you excited for Destiny 2?
I am not. I just simply don't care, to be honest. I didn't care for Destiny 1, and I'm not excited for Destiny 2. I mean, if I were to get an Xbox or get really into it on PC and get a new PC or whatever, then I guess, but I'm not particularly interested, to be honest.
Gotcha.
Some people are, and that's fine, but I'm not. Personally.
Oh, there's a lot of things that I'm not, so yeah.
Yeah. So, this one grabbed my attention, because I'm pretty interested. The tragic paladin Arthas will be a new hero portrait reward in the Knights of the Frozen Throne expansion to Hearthstone.
Okay.
So you can check out boring. Earlier today, Blizzard put a video embedded above, which you can find on PCGamer.com, which is in which lead mission design Dave Kosak talks about the expansion's PvE content, player versus environment content. As with the currently mothballed Hearthstone adventures, the boss encounters will be arranged into wings and released across consecutive weeks, which I always enjoy. It keeps you coming back and excited for something coming next week. It's kind of fun, even though it's a virtual wall. In this case, that means a prologue plus 3 weeks in week one. So 3 bosses in week 1, followed by another 3 bosses in week 2, and climaxing week 3 with a battle against the Lich King himself. In the video, Kosak notes that the surprise of precisely no one that the Lich King is quite the cheat when it comes to cards.
Of course.
Pleasingly, given how much people like to grouse about the cost of Hearthstone, all this stuff is free and comes with tangible reward. You get Arthas Menethil, the original paladin, less lichy, as a reward, which is pretty neat.
That's cool. That's cool.
I'm going to really enjoy playing Paladin after that. I mean, I love Uther as it is, but having Uther and Arthas, it's awesome.
No, that's actually pretty cool. And it's one of those things that even though I don't play Hearthstone, and I'm sure Hando, even though he is busy when he gets to hear this news, will be quite happy about it because I know he Hearthstones. That's really cool. It's again continuing to add and mash together all of their IP. Although it'd be fun to see with Hearthstone. I think it's still all WoW based, right? Everything in Hearthstone.
Everything, yep.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they had some kind of random like expansion pack that would maybe add like StarCraft or something in there, someone like Heroes of the Storm, and do some mashups. I think that could be fun. That would almost make me more interested.
I am disinterested in this. I'm sorry.
Not
I love
for you?
Warcraft related. I like the noises, the callbacks, the scenery, the cards.
I would keep everything
is just
else.
so great.
I would keep everything else WoW. I would just have a couple, like I said, a couple of cards thrown in there as like little side expansions that at least hint at the other games. I think it would be fun. But no, I got you. But that's cool because Hearthstone's still essentially a free game all the way through, right? You don't have to pay for any of it.
Technically speaking, that is true.
Now, it's one that, of course, I'm not interested in, but that's mostly because I don't like CCGs. So it's not just Hearthstone, it's any CCG. I found that I just do not play collector card games of any type. So, not me, or it's not the game, it's me.
Hearthstone is the very best TCG out there right now. It just is. In terms of numbers, in terms of quality, in terms of thought behind it, production quality, the fact that they're continuing working on it, continuous updates. Everything about it is just fantastic. It even links into nostalgia of older type things. Like even little things, like every time my turn finishes, I hear the Warcraft 3 peasant go, "Work's done."
Nice.
I love it. It makes me so happy. And I still play Hearthstone to this day. And it's well worth it. I just realized my phone's not charging. Charge!
See, I like how Grayfield in the IRC said, following my line of what could be, he said, Zerg deck? Huh? A Zerg deck cards? That would be fun. That'd be fun. Just
if
saying.
you want to make a StarCraft version of Hearthstone and call it, I don't know, whatever that equivalent is in the StarCraft universe. I don't know the StarCraft universe. A Zerg portal or something. I'd be okay with that version of Hearthstone coming out, where it's a completely different game and it exists. Or a Diablo one where you have a scroll of town portal or something as the Hearthstone equivalent. I'd be okay with that. But leave my Hearthstone as Hearthstone. Don't take it away from me.
Aw. Okay, fine. But I still think it would be cool. Anyhow, let's see. I think I have one more to bring up before we are almost done with time. Yes. So the other one I want to bring up, and this is as, again, I had worked with my nephews and actually got to play the Switch, and so get hands-on with it for the first time. An article from IGN that talks about Capcom is now planning more Switch games in the wake of Ultra Street Fighter II's success. So apparently, thanks to the strong performance of Ultra Street Fighter II, The Final Challengers, Capcom is reportedly planning more games for release on Nintendo Switch. According to their latest financial report, the Switch fighting game, quote, made an excellent start and proved to be a smash hit. Additionally, the Wall Street Journal's Takashi Michizuki took it to Twitter to report that Ultra Street Fighter II exceeded Capcom's expectations with 450,000 units sold in Q1. And as a result, the company is now starting, quote, to prepare several titles for the Switch. This is very much in line with prior statements from Capcom. Back in May, the company's CEO, Haruhiro Sugimoto, said Capcom will look to see how well Ultra Street Fighter II performs on Switch when assessing future support for the platform. For more on Capcom's fighting game for the Switch, there's a video that shows a little bit about it from IGN. So actually, this is pretty cool to see because as I continue to have these discussions about the Switch and how it doesn't necessarily fit into my world, it's one of the things as I keep seeing an issue with the Switch, much like the Wii. Maybe less so with the Wii U, I'm not sure. But in the sense that most of the people I know who ever purchased a Wii had fun with it, especially when hanging out with friends and kind of doing a group type thing, kind of fun group events. They enjoyed it and they liked their Wiis until they stopped doing that. And then they basically sat and collected dust for years. That they found they only really liked a handful of the actual games and stuff that they had on the Wii, and then afterwards it was a paperweight. Partially because the Wii had little support for anything. It didn't come with like a DVD player or anything like that, or Blu-ray player. The Wii U doesn't, and neither does the Switch. They arguably can do streaming, Netflix, stuff like that. So there was a little bit that, but it was also just that there were maybe ever like 4 or 5 games anybody ever bought for any of these systems. And after that, they're just kind of like, now what do we do? This goes to that, like I said, when I was, looking at any time for me, I was talking this with my brother as well. I don't see a Switch in my life because every time I look at the Switch and think like the only game I care about is Breath of the Wild. Yeah. Beyond that, ARMS and all these others don't. I would maybe care about the new Mario game, although it looks a little creepy, because Mario games tend to be really good. But after that, even then, what would I play? And so it goes back to I'm not going to buy a console for a single game, like ever. It just doesn't make sense. And so I don't know. I look at everything that it has to offer, and I just don't see. I don't see why a Switch matters. In my brother's family, where I have 2 kids at the right age, I can see that. It makes more sense. But that's kind of it for me. So I don't know. How about you? What do you think of the Switch as a whole? And I mean, it's cool because looking at the Capcom announcement, at least says that they're going to continue to have more third-party support. Because first-party Nintendo is great. There's a ton of it. But at some point, you need something beyond the Nintendo games, or else you end up with 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, I'm not sold whatsoever. I mean, it's the same with the PlayStation for me because it's similar to you with Breath of the Wild. I am very much interested in a couple of games for PlayStation, in particular Last of Us, and the new Last of Us coming out as well. I have never played it, and I really want to. I know it's one of the best games that exist in our century thus far, and I really want to play it, but it's not worth me buying a PlayStation for. And so... And Wii even less. I don't really enjoy Nintendo, so...
Gotcha.
What's the freaking point of me ever getting a Nintendo console, right?
Well, it kills me, right? Because Nintendo makes solid games. Every Zelda game is a good game. I would say that every... let's see, what was it? Those ones and every... Like, Mario games are all solid. They're all good games. Metroid games tend to be good. There's a lot of, like, really good games. Beyond that, I don't know. And
I'm sure they are good games. They're just not good games for me, personally.
Fair.
That's why I'm not.
Fair. No, that makes sense. And that's because I still haven't got a PlayStation 4, even though it's arguably the better of the consoles. I have the Xbox One I got was for Rock Band, for Game Fest. That was pretty much it. Beyond that, I don't know. And so I do run into the same challenges. And... So I found myself less and less intrigued anywhere by console games and the platforms they're on. The PC is so good. Why isn't everybody just a PC gamer? I don't understand. So yeah. Oh well.
I don't either. I mean, like, to be fair, I vaguely understand right now, considering I don't have the money to have one, and so I just can't PC game. So I still advocate. I still recommend it. If you can afford it. I guess.
Well,
Sad.
With that and our thoughts and all of you about what consoles and things you might be looking for, it is time for us to end the show this week. So, Ken, would you do us the honor of letting us get out of here? With that reminder to everybody to please check out the forums and check out the art contest so we can finish things up on a high note and have lots of entries. Please tell your friends, link it out to everybody, and let's get as many participants as we can. All right, sir, I will pass it off to you.
All right, you have been listening to Show X on BeastOfTheProductions.com. Check us out in all the different places that you can. Send us an emails to showx@BeastOfTheProductions.com. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/VTWShowX, twitter.com/DocDead for Mr. Wayne, and twitter.com/OX for myself. Check us on Facebook, search for Show X. We share all the memes there, all the memes, gaming news and memes. It's well worth following. Easy to go and like. Takes 2 seconds to search for. Give us a like, and you can enjoy all the stuff we post there. You can also support us by donating to us on patreon.com/showx. Minimum of $1 per month, or a one-off payment. You can do that too. You can give us one-off payment of $1. We'd be very happy with that. That would make us happy. Put big smiles on our faces. So anything you can do to support us on the above is much welcome. And as well, take part in the forums, because there's always stuff going on there too, and we could do with some more active posters there. Alright, you've listened to ShowX on VisaProductions.com. Thank you for having me on the show, sir, and thank you for fighting through all the technical difficulties and lightning for us to be here.
Oh, gosh. If ever I could just have a solid week or two of nothing crazy going on, would be so nice. So, thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. And let's see, next week, I'm trying to decide, what do I have scheduled next week? Next week, I believe I am good and fine for here.
I shan't be here next week.
You won't be the following week. I am going to not be here on the 13th, so we may look again at what we can do for you, Ken, because I will be on a mountain in North Carolina.
Away.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to be at a mountain in North Carolina on the 13th. So that won't be happening. So that may be a dead week, everyone. Maybe Ken and I will try to record something early. If I had a 24/7 server, or if I have it up and running again by then, maybe I will try to get us actively going on that and try to get a scheduled show. If not, then the 13th looks like it may be a missed week for us. The 20th will be a Game Fest weekend, and so I should be here and going with that, and we should have a special guest from another one of the VTW podcasts live in studio with us, so look forward to that. And then I believe we should be fine where I should have a show the 27th, and then unfortunately the 3rd I will be in Dragon Con in Atlanta. So we will see as we go forward which dates work and don't, but we'll let you guys know. So pay attention to the Twitter, pay attention to the front page, and you'll know whether there are shows or not. So, all right, sir, thank you very much for joining us, and I will catch you next week then, I believe. All right, everybody, thanks for listening, and we will catch you again next time. Bye, everybody! Let's see if the music will work this time now. All right, see ya!
Goodbye. See you next zombie. Good night. Also, God.